So the topic which we are going to cover today is how to calculate RPA performance metrics, which is the ROI, the return on investment, and the benefits and the best practices of RPA. So we all know that people and all the companies are turning to RPA to eliminate all the mundane tasks, the repetitive tasks, and freeing the workers, the corporate employees, so that they could focus on more higher value of work. But you have seen the whole SDLC of RPA in previous sessions, that you cannot just pick up a process and start automating it. Instead, you will have to follow a whole SDLC, which involves a proper designing, a proper planning, and governance, the data governance, which is also important for a lot of processes which are JXP relevant. And if you follow all those things, the whole SDLC in a proper way, the proper testing, the proper deployment, then only this business thing can bolster with the help of RPA. So what could be the framework of the RPA implementation? Define overall strategy and adoption mechanism. So that is what we cover in the whole SDLC, that we first analyze the whole requirement, then we go on to the designing. We analyze what could be the stoppers, what could stop us, that whether this system is suitable for integrating it in RPA, or it is prone to frequent changes which could affect our solution at the last. The selection of right process for automation. So it is that you cannot just pick up any process and start automating it. There are some criteria which help you decide that whether a particular process is suitable for automating or it is not. What we usually heard of is that the rule-driven task or a repetitive human task could be automated. Though that's not the case anymore, we know that RPA is now coming enabled with AI and with machine learning. The tools, the big tools like UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, now they're coming with enabled AI in it. You don't even need to know the whole functioning of it. You just need to integrate it. You should just know that, yeah, there exists a model for it and you just have to call it. So it's not anymore that only the rule-driven task could be automated. Even any process which involves intelligence or it's not rule-based could be automated. That's where now we hear a lot of hyper-automation terms, intelligent automation. So all these are related to that RPA-enabled AI is what brings in the hyper automation and intelligent automation thing. And what else could be the process which we could automate? It has to be repetitive. It can be repetitive. If it's data intensive, that it deals in a lot of data entry, or a lot of data archiving, or a lot of data transfer, or data download, migration from one platform to another, all these things could be automated. If a process is having a high error rate, so that could be, minimized if you introduce an RPA in it or introduced a software robot, because humans are more prone to errors than machine. So a process which is having high error rates, or a process which is an electronic trigger. So electronic trigger as in it gets enabled when you receive in a mail or when you receive in a message, or that could be a trigger point that you receive in a mail. Now you have to start a particular process. So those processes are called electronic trigger process. Or if there is a lot of manual calculation involved in that process, or there's a lot of validations involved in that process, or if the process deals in with a lot of complex steps, a lot of screen switching, so all those could be automated. So you'll have to keep in mind all these things while selecting a process for automation. It isn't like if a business or a client comes to you and says that I want to get this process automated, you just simply start automating it. You will not do that. You will instead analyze the whole process, all the applications involved in it, and then you will move forward. The third one is identifying the right RPA tool. So this is also very important. The identification of the right tool. So what are the criteria on which you identify that whether UiPath would be better, or whether Automation Anywhere would be better, or whether any free source RPA tool would be better? So how do you identify it? What are the criteria? I'll tell you some. The ease of use or the ease of implementation. How easy is it to use a particular tool to automate your process? or the team which you are having, how much are they skilled into a particular tool, or how much knowledge do they have in a particular tool, or the architecture of the process the developer team decides on to move forward with. Will that architecture fit in a particular tool which you have chosen? So these all are the things you'll have to question yourselves before selecting a particular tool. You need to question yourself that will it be scalable, will it provide me the thing, the solution which I want, is the architecture which I am thinking for the process, would that architecture be integrated with the tool which I am thinking of? The speed, will that particular tool speed up my this process, or would it slow down my process? Obviously when you are building a software robot, you have this thing in mind that this robot would now do the thing more faster than a human would do. So the speed also matters a lot. Then error handling and all, that whether it decreases the error rate or it increases the error rate. And last but not the least, which is very important, the cost. The cost, you know that there is a cost associated with the tool, then there is a cost associated with the license, then there is a cost associated with maintenance. So if you're suppose choosing XYZ tool, you have chosen an X tool for your automation, and the license it offers and the cost of the tool it offers, it's out of your budget. Your vendor is not ready to provide you that much budget to automate the process, then what you're gonna do? You will definitely not move with that process. So usually what happens, that the small companies, the startups, they think of starting with small and then scaling up as and when they get the response, or as and when they think that the productivity is increasing with the help of this bot. So then they thought of scaling up. So they are not ready to put in a lot of money in the starting only. Then there is also cost related to the type of license you use. So the attended, if your automation is attended, then there is a certain different amount of license cost involved with it. And if it's unattended, then the price is different. So this also you have to keep in mind while you are identifying the right RPA tool. The license fees, the vendor fees, the cost of implementation, the cost of maintenance, so that the whole thing falls in your budget, as well as the expected outcome from RPA. What is the ROI you are expecting from that process? ROI is return on investment. That if you are putting in $10,000 and you're expecting it to return you $15,000, that $5,000 is your ROI. So that also depends on what do you want out of that process. You want the bot to do your work with less error, more fast, and you want to make it scalable, or you want to improve the existing solution by developing an automated solution for it. So that is also one of the key points which you should consider while starting off with the RPA implementation. Moving on to the next slide. Framework to select right process for RPA. Automation pipeline. So to consider what to take up, so if you have multiple process, which process you should take up to that I will automate this first, and then post the deployment of this particular process I will pick in the next process. Or if those two processes are dependent, you cannot move on to the next process until the first one is completed, because they are independent. And also the pipeline also depends on your company bigger roadmap. What do they want to achieve after 5 years from RPA? How much do they want to incur from the RPA? Suppose your company has targeted a certain amount of money that they want as an ROI from RPA. And so to meet that, you would want to first automate the processes which would yield you more ROI in respect to the process which would yield you lesser ROI, because you have to meet your company's goal. So that is also a part of the BA to decide on the automation pipeline, that if you have 10 processes and you have 3 developers to work on it. So according to the priority, you decide that first I'm going to pick the P3 process, the P7 process, and P8 process to be developed and deployed. Once these 3 are developed and they're deployed into the production, I am going to now pick P1 and P6 and like that. So that is the automation pipeline, and that is how you decide that what's best in the interest of the company, what's best in the interest of your project. Feasibility analysis. So before getting into the technical thing, what is feasibility analysis? I would like to ask, what do you mean by feasible? This in layman language, what do you mean? What is the meaning of feasible?
You can answer guys from chat, and she will check this chat. You can check chat on what they are replying.
Yeah, I'm checking.
Okay.
I would not say feasibility is exactly the stability of a process. Yeah, but the ease of the process, the convenience, how convenient it is to adapt a particular process to a change or to do the change management. So feasible in layman terms means that it's easy, it's practical to do that thing. So that's what feasibility is. Yes, can be done or cannot be done, whether it is possible or it is not possible. Is it rule based? What are you asking? What is rule based, Mona Lisa?
I'm saying the one parameter should be the process, is it rule based or like can it be workflow enabled or not? That's also one thing we have to do.
Yeah, but that you can check while you are identifying the right tool for RPA. So you will, if your process is not rule based, it involves intelligence, then you would not pick a tool which does not offers enabled AI and ML in your process.
Yeah.
So in that stage only one would decide that would I want to go with which tool.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so feasibility analysis. Yeah. So feasibility is that whether a particular thing can be done or cannot be done. Is it possible or it is not possible? So, and if we coin that term with analysis, so that is we assess that a particular process, if in future suppose there's a change in the UI of a particular web application or Windows application you have used in your automation, so then you would want to think that whether now my process would be able to adapt to that change or not, whether it is possible for me to integrate that change in my process or not. So to validate all those things, the assumptions, the constraints, and to have a bigger pictures which validates all the business cases involved, that is what feasibility analysis is. And we do it before we get into the development of a particular use case. Before that, we do in the feasibility analysis. Then the complexity assessment, which is a prime key point, that we assess the complexity of the process based on a lot of criteria, that how many applications are involved in the process you're automating. Is the environment you are automating a virtual one or not? Because if it's a virtual one, then the automation becomes a little more complex. And whether how many steps are there in your automation, how many screen switching are there in your automation, that if there is a difference if you perform 10 steps on a single screen or you perform two steps on 10 screens. So definitely those two steps on 10 screen would add in more to complexity than the 10 steps on a single screen would. And the ROI analysis. So ROI is directly proportional to the complexity assessment. So if your process is more complex, then the cost of developing that particular solution is more, because the complexity is more. If we say that this particular P1 process is complex, its complexity is 70%, and we say that there is a process P2 whose complexity is 40%. So if you're putting in 40% effort or a less effort in compared to the process P1 for automating it, then you would also charge less. So every company or every firm has this different way of calculating the complexity, and they charge in different for different complexity. That there are mainly three categories: whether the complexity falls in low, it falls in medium, or it falls in high. And according to that, they charge that for low we'll charge this, for medium we charge this, and for high we charge this. So whatever is you're putting, they are charging you. According to that, you will be able to at the end decide that what's your ROI is. So this is feasibility analysis. The three main things which we consider in while doing the feasibility analysis is the resources required. Whether we have that much required resource with us to automate it or not. Showstoppers from automating. The applications involved, whether they offer the automation thing or not, because there are certain applications like enterprise application SAP. It involves you to first enable the scripting so that you could perform automation on it. So if there is any system which does not allows that thing, then you will not be able to automate it. So those are the things which you consider while doing the feasibility analysis, while telling the client that whether we'll be able to automate this process or will not be able to automate this process. Then factors that require additional validations. Now there are a lot of factors which involves the additional validation. Suppose you are automating a process wherein you get to know that there are these validations which you have to perform. If you have to perform a certain step only after the output of the previous step is this, or you have to perform a certain set of steps only if you have received a mail, then only you'll be able to perform that step. So those are the factors that require additional validation. You'll have to put in more efforts to validate it every step, that for performing the step, whether this thing have been performed or not. So for performing particular step, you did 4 validations, and then only you were able to perform that particular step. So these all things also amount to the calculation of the complexity and eventually the calculation of the ROI. The complexity assessment. So these are some of the key points which add into the complexity assessment. The deployment effort. How much effort you put into deploying. Suppose a particular raw bot or a particular bot which you have developed has 7 processes inside it. So you'll have to deploy all those 7 processes. So you cannot compare those efforts when you are deploying only 1 process and when you are deploying 7 processes. So that is the deployment effort you count in, and that is added to your complexity assessment, because there you'll have to put in more efforts for deploying it. You have developed 7 processes and then you'll deploy 7 processes. And then this also adds into that whether you want to deploy all those processes on different licenses or you want to deploy it on same license. So that all depends on how the process is, how does the client want the process to perform, at what is the schedule. So keeping all those things in mind, which you would cover in the analysis phase when you're doing the requirement and the design, accordingly you'll move forward with how much development effort is required and how much deployment effort is required, what is the maintenance cost. So therein, in the initial phases only, you decide all these. The manual asks monthly. So when we are assessing the complexity of a particular use case, why are we considering this manual ask? We don't have to do anything about the manual ask. So why do you think we take into consideration the manual ask? When we are automating it, oh, there are a lot of messages in the chat. Let me just read it. Whether we can able to deliver project with given deadline and given number of bots and whether, okay. Yeah, Mahesh, whether we have scanned copies to automate, it will be complex to get correct output. It will not be complex. This is when that AI enabled thing comes into play. That is what intelligent automation do. So accordingly, you will choose in the tool if you have scanned copies or images in your process. Do we have any document for that? So there is not a single specific particular document for this wherein you can validate all those things. It depends on to company and company to company and and on the type of RPA platform you have set up within your team. So accordingly, you make in this technical feasibility document, the financial feasibility document, because it differs. Because if I consider certain things that they are, prime contribution for me to assess the complexity. If I consider that number of steps, I will take into consideration while I'm calculating complexity. And there is another group of RPA team who says that I will not consider in the number of steps, Instead, I will take into consideration the number of validations. Is my voice breaking?
No, Anmol. It is clear.
Okay, then Balaram, I think maybe there is some issue at your end. Yeah, so coming to your question, Balaram. So we do not have a certain, you could not find a single document which could fit into all RPA setup platforms. It would depend and it would vary from team to team. If I take in the validation, number of validation as a prime thing to decide in the complexity, maybe you will not. But yeah, if you want to have these feasibility document, there are, complexity calculator provided by UiPath. You could try using it. You can find it. I'll send in a link if I find it. There is a complexity calculator provided by UiPath. You can use it to assess the complexity of your process. But then again, it totally depends. You can even tweak with that calculator present to adapt it to your this automation setup. Okay, so yeah. So the data size, records and rows. So the complexity also depends on that how many set of data or how many records you're dealing with. If it's a huge amount of data dealing into millions of records, then you will have to think about the mechanism which fits in. And if you have to just deal in with a small amount of data and transferring of data between different platforms, then the complexity would be different. Then this data size also depends on whether you consider it as a part of your complexity assessment or not. The business logic, the complexity involved in the business process. So it's like when you do a task, which is now chosen for being automated. So then the logic on which you perform the task totally depends that how complex it is. What all are the things you validate before performing a certain action. As I've told you earlier, that for performing a particular action, if you have to validate 5 things, that what is the output from process 1, what is the outcome from this workflow, or has the mail been triggered or not, and then I'm going to perform a certain step. So that is how you decide in the complexity. The process steps, how many steps are involved while performing a particular process, the standardization effort, and the applications involved. The standardization effort is whenever you develop a process, usually what people do, they neglect this standardization thing. Always you should make a note of it that you must first standardize the process, and that's the BA also plays a role on it while standardizing the process. I'll just show. So see, this standardization things is where the BA takes in the role. The preparation thing is there, that you analyze all the documents, you make in the PDD, you make in the feasibility document, but then you also work on towards standardizing it, that whether the data the bot is going to process, it's structured or it's unstructured. If it is unstructured, it's better if we could standardize that data collection process and make it structured. Then the bot could perform a little more better and with reduced error rates. And you analyze all those things that, okay, in a span of these days, in a span of 15 days, will the application I am using to automate would change? Would change? If it changes, if the change is major, that would eventually affect your automation solution. So you analyze all those things. You analyze that how frequent the applications involved are changing, and what impact does it going to make to your process. You verify the process performance, you verify that if there is a change, how much is the change, how it is affecting your process, will there be a downtime if a particular thing is changed. If there are two applications involved and there is a downtime in one of it, would it even affect the second application? So those are the things you analyze, you document all of it. See, business analysts should carry out the below task to identify standardization procedures. Detailed discussion with the stakeholders of the existing manual process and expected automated process. So you do a discussion with the person who is currently performing that manual operation. You try to get the detailed minute, even the minute details, it matters. So you try to get in and you try to understand how the process actually works, and also the expected automated process, which is what we called as the as-is process and the to-be process. The existing manual process is the as-is process, as you perform it right now manually, and the to-be process is expected automated process, how the bot is going to perform that particular process.
Anmol, your screen is not visible.
Okay, yeah, I'll just try sharing it again. Visible now? Yeah, okay. Okay, so second point, I am on the second point. Detailed documentation of the existing manual process to identify manual, semi-automated and automated activities within the process. So you try to, have a bigger picture of the process you're going to automate. Suppose in future, you want to automate another process of that whole thing, and you want to integrate the existing process you have automated to that bigger part. So that is where the scalability thing comes in picture, that you make it so scalable that when in future you integrate another process of that bigger part, you could integrate those two processes easily so that they could work together. So that is where you document everything, the whole existing manual process, so that you could identify, okay, this particular part is still the workers are performing it manually. This thing we have automated, and in future we'll automate this whole thing, and this is the whole picture. Identify standard operational procedures which can be introduced and mapped into the process map. So you identify what all of the SOPs which can be introduced, that for performing this whole process, this is the standard task, and every time you'll have to perform this thing only to get it done. So you identify those things and you map it to the process map. You map it to your bigger picture, that when I'm going to automate this whole process, it is going to be like this, that this particular task would be done by bot like this. The particular process P2 would be done by bot like this. If P1 is giving something as output and that acts as an input to P2, how the whole thing would be integrated. Plan for a standard business rule library which can be used by the automation process. Come up with the standard procedures for the maintenance, that how you're going to maintain it, because there is a maintenance cost also related to it. It's not a one-time investment that you have built in the process and now you are done. You keep on maintaining it, you keep on doing the change management if there is any change in any of the applications involved. Identify complexity of the existing process and investigate ways of reducing the complexity by applying standardization. How could you, reduce in the complexity by standardizing the process? Because as I told you earlier, that if it's unstructured data, you will try to understand the process, how could you make it into structured data? And once the data is structured, the complexity decreases, because now you don't have to deal in with the AI thing to make the structure, to make the data structured. Instead, you could simply work in with the structured data which is the rule-driven thing. You will not be, the AI thing, the ML thing would not be required. So that would definitely decrease in the complexity of your process. Now this is the complexity assessment. This is just a sample. This also varies. So you take into consideration the manual efforts monthly. These are the 3 processes which I've taken. For example, the workflow 1. So monthly for performing workflow 1, 21 to 40 hours of manual effort is required. And similarly for workflow 2, 5 to 10, and workflow 300. The personal quantity or the people, how many people are being put to perform that particular task. If 4 people are putting in 20 hours of work daily, monthly, then you would, get the total hours based on that. It would be, if 4 people are performing 20, then 20 falls are 80. So you are spending 80 hours monthly to perform a particular process. The departments, how many departments, it covers, like the domain you could call it. The number of applications, how many applications are involved, how many web applications are involved, how many Windows applications are involved. The number of screens that you have to switch to, how many number of screens for performing that particular operation. The process steps, the data size, the business logic we have discussed, the deployment, how much effort you're putting in deploying a particular process, and the effort you put in while standardizing that process. So with the help of all these, there are a lot of formulas while calculating exactly how many days you're going to put into the development and how many days you're going to put into the deployment. So based on that, you make a whole RPA cycle or a whole RPA, the roadmap of automating a particular process. That total will take 6 weeks, starting from the requirement, the design, the development, the UAT and the integration testing, and then the deployment. And that you pass into the clients, and according to that you charge them. You don't only charge them for the development effort. Instead, you take into the whole consideration, the whole SDLC, starting from the requirement till the deployment. So that is how you assess the complexity of a particular process. The ROI analysis. The RPA solution cost, which is the tool cost, the license cost, the maintenance cost. That is the whole RPA solution cost. What is the cost you're putting in for the whole thing to be developed? Saving of manual hours. So why every time the saving of manual hours coming into picture? See, the main idea of calculating this performance metrics or for calculating the ROI is to compare the 2 main things. And these 2 main things, they lay the foundation of calculating the whole performance metrics. You could call them as before and after. So what is before? That is, you measure the manual effort into the cost of the work or your salary. Suppose if 2 people are put to a particular work and they are paid 50,000 monthly, then you are spending 1 lakh monthly for that particular process to be executed. So that is before the as is process. So as is, before the automation, you were putting 1 lakh per month to get that process done. And after is, now when you have automated it, what is the RPA tool cost you have put in and the cost of maintenance put in? And it suppose comes down to 60,000 per month. So that 40,000 now you are saving, that is your ROI. So that is why everywhere we are getting this manual hours into consideration while even calculating the complexity or even calculating the ROI. This manual hours is coming because you see what money were you putting before and what money you're putting after automating that particular process. So the difference between the before and after gives you your ROI. Regulatory compliance and data governance. Regulatory compliance is that, every business, they follow a certain set of rules and they are bound by certain laws to which they abide by while doing the business, while expanding the business. and the data governance. Sometimes you hear it that a particular process is a GXP relevant process, or a particular system, or it's GXP relevant. So GXP is basically G stands for good and P stands for product, and X could take a place of anything, depends on the domain. It could be pharmaceutical if your domain is life sciences. It could be related to food industry. It could be related to clinical things. It could be related to the banking sector. So that is, if a system is GXP, then it is how a company goes about everything, the GXP compliance. It is taking care of the data which is flowing between systems, or it is taking care of all the rules for following the good and the best practices. So that is what, and why is it considered while calculating the ROI? Because if a process is GXP relevant, or if a system is GXP relevant, you have to do an extra set of documentation to ensure that your process, which you are building, a automation solution which you are building, is also GXP relevant, that it follows all the good practices which falls under that domain. So you have to do a certain more set of documentation, like operational procedures, the validation documents and all. So that's why it incurs a little more cost, because you are providing a more set of documentation, and in the process also you're doing a certain set of validation, so that so that your process is regulatory compliant and the data governance is taken care of, and all the data privacy thing, it's all being taken care of. If the data is flowing from one system to another system, it's secure. Then customer satisfaction and improved brand. So all this you do so that your customer could be satisfied. The error rates could be reduced. He's getting its job done more faster and more accurately. He's saving a lot of time. He's saving a lot of money. So that is also a key consideration while calculating the ROI. Improved quality through error reduction. It's that when the error rate is reduced, if a process is there who is, there is a lot of high error rates in that process, and that in any process, if it's, the error rates are high, there is a cost associated with that error. So that cost is basically the loss to the company. That if you are performing 7 to 8 errors every week, and there is a cost incurred to it, for every error you're losing $100, so then there is a loss. That is a loss to the company. So by RPA, we automate that process. And as we know that humans are more prone to errors than machine. So if you have an automated solution or a software robot working in place of you, then the error reduction would be low. There would be reduced error rates. So that is also, takes part in the calculating the ROI, because now, because of the software robot, your error rate is diminished to a great extent. And now your company is not incurring that loss, which it was incurring when a human was doing that work in place of the robot. The productivity gain. Suppose if you are able to do a particular thing in 5 hours and the robot is doing it in 2 hours, then those 3 hours are saved. And you will be able to do a more productive job or a more complex task instead of, wasting your time on this. You will add into the productivity of the company by utilizing yourself for a more better task. So that is also how you calculate the ROI, that you take this thing also into consideration while calculating the ROI. Now, this is the ROI analysis, that if the number of processes is 1 and each process saves X hours, suppose every process is saving 1 hour, and 14 times a week this process runs. So how many times, what is the total hours will be saved in a year? So in 7 days, if it's saving 14 hours, so in then 365 days, it will save 1460 hours. And if cost per hour, you are being paid $40 per hour, then how many hours would be saved? 40. So 1460 hours would be saved, and for 1 hour, the cost is 40 hours. So we'll just multiply this and we will get what is the savings if we remove in the manual effort? If the bot will automate it, what will be the savings? And now here is this cost per error, that for every error you make in, there is a cost associated to it. So you'll be able to save $2,600 per year if the error rate is reduced, because the human thing is not anymore in picture. The bot is doing the job. Then you streamline the regulatory compliance and data governance thing. And for that, as I've told you, that if it's regulatory compliant or it's GXP relevant, you have to put in a more extra effort in documenting all those things. So there is a cost associated to that also. The documentation of the process, the training, the knowledge capture. If it's an attended automation, you'll have to train someone that how will he be able to trigger the bot and the knowledge capture. Support waste reduction goals and process improvement. So what you do in data maintenance, you keep on maintaining that thing, or if there is any change, in process, you adapt to that process. Or in a range of time, if you see, okay, I could improve this process by removing these 4 steps, and instead of these 4 steps, I will perform this 1 step. So that is how you improve your process. And for that also there is a cost associated to it. So total per year you would put in this. This is just a stats. For example, I'm just showing the stats. It would vary according to the process you're dealing in. Limited customer attrition. So you put in a little more effort and cost so that you don't lose in your client base. That client base is maintained and you keep on getting projects and businesses from it. So for that also you put in a cost. You could show the analytics to the client by the insights and analytics by this dashboard and all that. See, the bot is processing this much data, this much amount of data in this much time. So with all those things, you will engage your clients to stick to you, to give you business, so that your client base is maintained and you keep on getting projects and you keep on generating revenue. So this is the cost associated with how you diminish the customer attrition, how you don't lose your customer. Then the tool platform cost, that's a one-time cost, the license cost and the tool cost. Annual maintenance and support, that is annual cost per year. You'll have to put in this much money for the maintenance thing and for the license cost. Consultant services and training, the services which you provide, the consultancy services or the training you provide to the persons who monitor that thing or who trigger the attended automation. So that is the total cost of solution. And then this is the all bigger picture. If you see that in 4 years or in 10 years, how many money I'm going to save, what will be the ROI if I put in $10,000 this year, what would be the ROI after 4 years or after 10 years? So here you take into picture the manual hours, the error reduction, the productivity gain, the business agility. What is business agility? What do you mean by business agility? So what do we mean by agile or agility?
Yeah, so how quickly or how well you can change anything if any requirement is changed or differs from the current requirements, and how you are flexible enough to transform from any module to bigger or shorter form, or any requirement should be changed like that. So you should be agility, or agile means like the development should be done by constant changes. Okay. So this is called business agility.
Yeah, correct. And how well, what's the ability, how you quickly you could, adapt to the market changes, the market trends, or if there's any change in the application, how quickly, you get that integrated or you adapt to it. So that is business agility. That is why, you should make your solution as robust as you could so that it could easily be adaptable to small changes. Then the compliance thing, whether it's GXP relevant, whether the data governance thing is being taken care of or not, the branding and customer satisfaction. So this is total per period cost. Then this initial cost, because this is a one-time cost, you don't have to, put in the tool platform cost for every year. The support, the annual maintenance cost, you will have to put in. So it's present on all the years. And then the services and training thing is also a one-time thing that you train in a set of people to maintain it, to support it, or to trigger it. You teach them, you train them, and that is also a one-time cost. So this way, how you calculate the return on investment for 10 years or after 14 years, you want to check that if I set up this RPA thing, what would be the return on investment for me in 5 years? So that is how you calculate that. Coming to the benefits of RPA. So cost saving. So that is what we've been talking since so long, that cost saving, how much is it saving for us? If it's not saving for us, it is costing more, then there's no point of, automating a particular solution. But then totally depends. If the cost does not matter for you, but the error rates matter for you, you want your the solution to be error free, you want the job to be done with low error rates, and you do not worry about the cost, then also you could automate it. But usually people do worry about the cost. They want the cost to be reduced, and they want the work to be done more faster and more accurate. So that is what RP provides you. The software robots are built. They do the task, they do it more accurately because no human intervention is involved in between. The robots can even, perform intelligently with the help of intelligent automation. They could, do a certain set of calculation or complex calculation more faster. If it's about, scraping the data or taking out the data from a particular web page or from a particular PDF or from invoice or from receipt, the bot could do the work much faster within seconds. And the human would definitely take time to do it, and it would also be prone to errors. The automated response and triggers. Suppose if you're working late night or you're not working in your time zone, you would have to wait for the mail to come, and after that you have to perform certain operations, or you have to, raise an order for something if you have received a mail. So instead of you doing it, what if we automate that solution that whenever the mail is received, the bot does the job? So that is also one of the benefits of the RPA, that you need not to work round the clock or work in odd hours. Instead, the bot could do the work. So if there is even a bot, or if there is a process which involves 24/7 support, or a 24/7 someone working on it, that whenever this thing is received or whenever any customer approaches you, you have to perform this task. So it's better if instead of you, the robot takes your place and performs the whole task. It would be way too better, and it would, achieve the desired solution more faster. The insights and analytics. So as we know that when this AI and ML comes into phase, there is a thing called prediction, that you could predict that if the data trend is this since past 6 months, if the data trend is this, then in the next 2 months, the data trend would be like this. So that is what insights is. Okay, you could predict. And analytics is, you could see that how much data is being processed by the bot in how much time, what is the error rate, how much time is the bot getting failed. So those things also help you in improving the process, in achieving better goals. Improved communication. So suppose you get a mail from a customer or a client, or wherein this support thing comes in place. So if the bot is responding, it would respond way too faster. You will have to keep checking the screen, and if there is even a lack of few minutes or few hours, then that would lead to a low customer experience. But the bot would not have to check. It could be just made a triggered bot, that whenever the mail thing or text is received, it would just start its work. So RPA, can help you effectively carry out communication with the audience. With that, you can figure out what do they want, and accordingly you can act. improve better customer experience. So that is how, if you're responding quickly, if you're performing a particular task quickly, then the customer experience is improved. If a customer has complained you about something that, suppose if it's a telecom thing and it has, complained you about that my recharge is not done. So you will take a little time to check in, and the bot would do within a blink of an eye. It would check in the database and it would accordingly respond. So that's why the customer experience could improve and the customer would be glued to you. The time saving, that it does the work faster as compared to what humans do. So that is also one of the benefits of RPA. The best practices of RPA. The documentation. You must do a very detailed documentation in which everything is clear, like the whole requirement thing, the design thing, what is the architecture you're going to follow, which will, help you in identifying the tool, what are the things that are involved in the process that will also help you in the identification of the tool, what is the cost involved, that will also eventually help you whether you want to go for a free source tool or you want to go for the paid tool. The PDD, that is the process design document or process definition document. So it contains the whole process map, detailed step-by-step process with the validations involved, all the screenshots you put up there for clarity, all the screens which the process would be dealing in while automating it must be put up so that, the business gets a clear clarity and also your team gets a clear clarity while developing that process, what is in scope of this process and what is not in scope of the process or it is out of scope. That also you should mention in the documentation. Also you mention in that your UI changes should not be too frequent because that would break your process. So you could even mention that you expect that for the 2 months or for 1 month or 15 days, depending on the process, you would expect the integrated platforms and the integrated applications in the process to be stable. The planning of the whole thing, that what all are the timelines when you come to the requirement thing, the development thing. So you plan all that very well, that what is the plan of the UAT, when you're going to do the user acceptance testing, when would the system testing be done, when would it be deployed, when would the hypercare start. So hypercare is the support thing that you provide the support for 10 days or for 7 days, depending on the, your RPA setup after deployment, wherein you closely monitor that how the bot is performing in the production. So all those things are, taken care in planning. Then the modularity. So modularity is basically you break down a complex thing into small parts so that they are manageable. And you could easily decide that, okay, if a particular thing has changed or if a particular process, if there's this breaking change in the process, in which particular module do I need to make the change? So that modularity, you design, you see that on how many modules we're going to develop it or in how many modules we are going to break it. The readability, this is not something to be taken care by a BA. This is more of a developer thing, that they should make the whole solution more readable so that it is easy for them also and for anyone else also to understand and to do the changes accordingly. You should avoid the hard coding thing. This is also more of a development centric thing, developer centric thing. Then the testing, the unit and integration. The testing should be done really well. The unit thing, that you check in whether each module, small modules are working fine, and then whole solution is working together fine or not. And the reusability thing. So reusability is an important thing, that you make in code more reusable so that if that particular thing or that particular set of process or methods have to be performed by another process, you could easily reuse that instead of writing it from the beginning. We could easily reuse that, so that would lead to a decrease in your effort and you could increase in the ROI at your end if you are reusing the things. So that's all. If you have any questions, you can put in the chat box.
Thank you so much, Anmol. It was really wonderful. So you have given clear insights and you have deep dive into the set topic. So it was very cool. So guys, you can check the questions if you have any questions. We'll go ahead.
Any questions, guys? You can put in the chat box.
I think the previous questions you have already answered, I guess.
Yeah, I think I'm just checking once again. Okay, there is this question, why do banking clients prefer BP over UiPath in most of the cases? So I don't think it's anything related to the domain thing, that why do banking clients prefer BP over UiPath. I could be wrong also. So by deciding any of the tool, that whether we're going for a free source or we're going for a paid one, and if we're going for paid one, which one are we choosing? So that does not much depends on the domain you're automating to. That depends on the process, the steps involved in that process, which helps you choose for a particular tool. So domain does not play that important role, but yeah, then again, it totally depends that in that particular domain, which process you're going to automate and what's the requirement for that process. According to that, you decide in for a particular tool.
Okay, maybe I have one small question. So during feasibility analysis, you said like you take care of technical as well as financial aspects, right? So when it comes to financial feasibility, how do we know like what would be the cost of the tools that are available in the market, right? So how do we get that info? Is it through, because I don't see any websites stating what would be the cost of the tool. So how do you get this info?
Okay, so yeah, that is present on their website. If it's not present, there is a option that if you want to go for the enterprise thing, which is paid, then you put in your this whole enterprise mail ID and the requirement that how many license you want to acquire, what is the setup you want to set up, how many team members are there in your team, and accordingly they send you this thing. They send you in a mail that this is the cost for the licenses. So if I talk about UiPath, they have a tool cost related to the enterprise version, and then they have a cost related to the automated license if you want to take. I think it's around 8,000 something dollars, and if you want to go for unattended, then also there's a cost related to it. So you drop in a mail to them that you want to set up an RPA platform with their tool as the base, and then you tell your requirement that how many licenses you want to acquire, what all type of licenses you want to acquire, and accordingly they'll get back to you with the cost of everything. Okay. How to do complexity assessment during the requirement stage itself. So when you have the requirement, when you're in the requirement stage, you're well aware about the whole process. You are well aware that how many applications are involved. You're well aware of the as-is process, that how the business is performing the process as of now, to what all screens he is being navigating to what all validations. he's considering for performing a certain steps. So usually all the factors which takes a major role in assessing the complexity, you know them in the requirement stage itself. If you do not know, then do not proceed to design phase until you have all those requirements which you use in while assessing the complexity in the requirement stage itself. You would know that what all are the validations, how many processes are involved, to which domain it deals in future if they want to automate the whole process, or if in future if they want to integrate more process to it, then you would have to consider all those things also while assessing the complexity. So you know all the factors in the requirement stage itself, and accordingly you do the complexity assessment. Before even moving on to the development phase or to the design phase, you first tell the client that we are going to charge you this much. So you tell that amount only on the basis of complexity assessment. If you haven't done the complexity assessment at your end, you'll never be able to tell the cost to the client that we'll charge you this many dollars. So it's like before buying anything, you ask the shopkeeper ki kya price hai iski. So the same goes with the RPA model. You will have to tell the client the price of automating it, and you can only tell that by doing the complexity assessment. Is there any email ID to drop to get the cost involved to automate? Yes, there are IDs. There are IDs mentioned on their site, on the support IDs of different tools, the support ID of UiPath, the Automation Anywhere, the Blueprints, and all the free source. They have this customer support. You can drop in a mail to them and then get back to you with answers.
Okay, maybe one more question related to Agile. So, if I'm not wrong, like, any RPA process from development to delivery, it would involve 6 weeks, right? Maximum duration, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, please complete.
Is that right? Or my assumption is wrong?
See, that's not necessary that it would definitely, or there is no hard and fast rule that it would take 6 weeks. I have developed a solution dealing in 10 weeks and 8 weeks as well. So it totally depends how vast the process is, how many applications and everything is involved in it. So it's not hard and fast.
Okay. Okay. Assuming my, like anyway, for any piece of work to be done, we do an estimate, right? So assuming that the process would involve, the complete development and maybe testing to be done. So it would involve, assuming 6 weeks of time. So the customer is so inclined, since we are following Agile method, or what do you call that? Maybe a Agile process or Agile methodology.
Agile methodology, yeah.
Yeah. So if the client keeps on changing the requirements, like how do we, because since agility is all about change in continuous changes, but within this 6 weeks duration of time, if there is continuous change in requirements, so how do you manage or how do you handle this situation?
Okay. So see, yeah, please put yourself on mute if you're not speaking. So if there is a continuous change in requirement and you have to cater to that change, then the assessment, the cost could even revise depending on the change, the amount of change that is there in the system. And it also depends on which stage you are currently in the SDLC. Suppose you are about to start with the UAT, the user acceptance testing. Then, where was I? So if you are at the verge of starting the user acceptance testing, and then there is a change, there is a big change from client, you want to take it up, you can take it up, but you will need to revise the cost and as well as the schedule. Because if the client is, the deal is that you will deploy the bot in 6 weeks, and because of the change in requirement, you'll not be able to do it. That is, you'll have to put in an extra week of effort to, adapt to that change. So for that, you could go with revising the schedule, or you could ask the client that we will take up this in the change request, in the CR after the deployment is done. So it is totally your call and your RPA setup platform call that how you want to deal with the changes. You can take it as a CR, or you can do the changes therein, and you can revise the cost and complexity and provide it with the client. And you have to update the all PDD and all the documents involved. So like that, you take up the change request or if there's any change.
Okay, thank you very much. And is there any metrics involved in the RPA process, like any metrics to measure the quality of the software delivered?
See, then that also depends on the tool you're using. There are some metrics involved in few tools. There are workflow analyzers which analyze the quality of the code you're doing, or which analyzes whether you align with the set of standard rules or not. So they help you in analyzing that whether your code is up to standard or not.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Anmol. Thanks for your answers. So I think there are no more questions, and we need to wind up with the questions. So thank you so much. So immediately I will jump into the question and answer. I jump into the quiz session. So I typed the question. So guys, please ready with your answer. And before that, I forgot actually to take a picture actually. So Anmol, if you are available to take a picture, I would like to take a picture, and the other guys who are available can on their camera for 10 seconds. Actually, I
Okay,
forgot in
sure.
the initial stage. If Anmol is available, she will on, and other guys who are available, they can also. Anybody is doing, guys?
Yeah, I am doing it, Lesh.
Any other guys, please, can you do with Anmol? Hi, thank you, Anmol. And any other guys? If not, we'll jump into quiz because it's already delayed. I'm seeing only Anmol. Other persons are actually. Thank you, Anmol. You can off it. We'll jump into the quiz.
Thank you, Niklesh.
Okay, the question. So I'm posting my question, guys. So please answer it. Yeah, this was the question.
Performance metrics is itself, guys, ROI. That is, you calculate ROI by calculating the performance metrics. So it's one and the same thing.
I think we didn't get the proper answer. I will wait.
But yeah, we can wait or we'll judge from this only.
Yeah, you can. If it is done, guys, she will tell the answer or she will explain. Yeah, Anmol, you can go with the answer.
Okay, so One has written ROI, complexity and effort, or complexity and feasibility. I think we can take Alakhya's answer. Yeah, this RP solution cost and manual hours. Yeah, you take into consideration the manual hours.
Yes. Yeah, this was the answer we were expecting. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
Kapish.
Yeah, Kapish. Hi, Kapish. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, the next question, guys, please ready. It is very easy.